For the past 6 months, it's been a slow-burning nightmare. From my living room window, I watched again as the white Mercedes SUV took the corner too sharply, cutting across my lawn without a care in the world. The driver, Karen Mitchell, either didn't notice or didn't care about the damage she left behind. Deep tire tracks scarred the Kentucky bluegrass I had just laid 3 days earlier. That made 7 times. Something in me snapped. But let me back up. 2 years ago, I moved into Willowbrook Estates, lured by its quiet, tree-lined streets and pristine homes. It was the kind of neighborhood people dream about. Clean, orderly, serene. The HOA touted itself as a guardian of property values and suburban perfection. My home sat proudly on a corner lot at the intersection of Maple and Oak. It was my sanctuary from long days at the accounting firm. I poured myself into the yard. Weekends spent grooming flower beds, edging the grass just right, and planting new blooms. I took pride in it. And I wasn't the only one who noticed. Neighbors often slowed down to compliment the curb appeal. Then came Karen. Karen Mitchell, president of the HOA and self-proclaimed protector of neighborhood standards, lived 3 houses down in a gaudy McMansion bursting with lawn ornaments that somehow managed to skirt the very rules she enforced on everyone else. Karen had a habit. She took the turn at Maple and Oak like she was on a racetrack, cutting across the edge of my lawn to save herself maybe 2 seconds. The first time it happened, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was an accident, a miscalculation, but then it happened again, and again. Each pass carved deeper ruts into my grass, ruining weeks of careful upkeep. Still, I tried to handle it civilly. One morning, I caught her at the mailbox. "Good morning, Karen." I greeted with a polite smile. "I just wanted to mention, your SUV's been cutting across my lawn when you make that turn. Would you mind keeping to the road? I just reseeded that area." She looked at me as though I'd asked her to dig ditches for a living. "That little patch of grass?" she scoffed. "I doubt my car is doing any real damage. Honestly, the road's poorly designed there. I have places to be, and I can't slow down for every little bend. Maybe take it up with the HOA if you're so concerned." I stood there, stunned, as she sauntered off. Over the following weeks, I tried everything. Polite emails with photos, each ignored or met with snide replies, citing obscure bylaws about grass height or approved fertilizers. I placed decorative stones along the curb. They were no match for her tires. I put up a tasteful sign that read, "Please stay on the road." It vanished within 48 hours. Things came to a head at an HOA meeting. I came prepared, photos, receipts for sod and seed, even a video of her SUV grinding through my yard like it was a construction site. The board fidgeted uncomfortably as I spoke. Karen, seated at the head of the table, examined her nails with exaggerated boredom. When I finished, she let out a sigh. "Mr. Johnson, while I understand your concern for your lawn, we have to look at the broader issue. That corner is a known traffic bottleneck. Until the city does something, residents will do what's necessary to drive safely. Maybe consider replacing the grass with something more durable, like a rock garden. The HOA would definitely approve." Some neighbors nodded in sympathy. None said a word. Later, I learned Karen had a reputation. Cross her, and life got complicated. She'd cite phantom violations, delay project approvals, or simply make people's lives miserable until they gave up. The damage to my lawn grew worse with time. Karen no longer tried to hide it. If anything, she seemed to relish it. Sometimes she even sped up as she cut the corner. I was out over $1,200 in repairs, seed, and water bills from keeping the grass alive. Then came the final straw. One Thursday in April, I woke up to find my lawn obliterated. Deep ruts tore through the corner. 2 sprinkler heads were ripped out of the ground. My automatic system had been running all night, flooding the area into a muddy swamp. And there they were, clear as day, Karen's tire tracks. The muddy tracks led straight to Karen's driveway. She hadn't even tried to stay on the road the night before, just tore through my lawn like it was a shortcut designed specifically for her convenience. Standing there in the early morning light, barefoot, in my pajamas, clutching a half-finished cup of coffee, I made a decision. No more polite conversations. No more HOA meetings. No more Mr. Nice Guy. If Karen wanted to play games, I was going to show her how the game was really played. I went inside, sat down at my laptop, and opened a commercial landscaping supply site. 30 minutes later, I had placed an order for 6 heavy-duty steel bollards, the kind you see protecting storefronts from smashing grab drivers. 4 feet tall, 6 inches thick, and rated to stop a truck going 30 miles per hour. They arrived 2 days later, along with bags of concrete and a full installation kit. I'd done my homework. According to city code and the HOA bylaws, as long as the bollards were on my property, didn't exceed 4 feet in height, and respected setback regulations, they were completely legal. I even submitted the appropriate permit application to the city, framing them as decorative landscape features for property protection. The approval came the same day. That Friday night, I called in a favor for my friend Mike, a construction guy with the right tools and zero patience for HOA nonsense. Under cover of darkness, we got to work. 6 holes, each 3 feet deep, precisely aligned along the edge of my yard where Karen loved to cut across. We set the bollards in concrete and let them cure overnight. By 3 a.m., they stood like steel soldiers, spaced just closely enough that no car could fit between them. For good measure, I wrapped each in reflective tape. Karen wouldn't miss them. At least that was the theory. Saturday morning broke with perfect spring weather. I brewed a fresh cup of coffee and settled onto my porch, pretending to read the newspaper, but my eyes were on the corner. At exactly 8:15 a.m., I heard the familiar growl of a Mercedes engine. Karen came flying around a curve, taking her usual shortcut across my lawn. She didn't even flinch until her front bumper slammed into the first bollard. The impact was loud, metal crumpling, plastic shattering. Her car jolted to a dead stop, the airbags deployed with a muffled hump. From where I sat, it was beautiful. She stumbled out of the driver's side, dazed, her once flawless hair a tangled mess. When she spotted me, coffee in hand, her face twisted with rage. "What the hell have you done?" she screamed, storming across what little was left of my lawn. "You destroyed my car. Remove these things, or I'll sue you for everything you've got." I stood up slowly, setting down my mug. "Good morning, Karen. I see you discovered my new landscaping. They're decorative bollards, completely legal and properly permitted. I'd be happy to show you the paperwork." Her face turned crimson. "I don't care about your permits. You did this on purpose. You knew I'd turn there. This is vandalism. I'm calling the police." "Please do," I replied calmly. "I'm sure they'll be interested to see 6 months of video footage, photos, and over $1,200 in repair receipts. Not to mention the emails showing you were fully aware of the damage and chose to ignore it." Right on cue, several neighbors emerged from their homes, drawn by the noise. Karen's wrecked Mercedes was now partially blocking the road, its front end wrapped tightly around one of the bollards. Within 15 minutes, a squad car arrived, followed by a tow truck. Officer Martinez stepped out, a familiar face from previous community events. He surveyed the scene, took our statements, reviewed my permit, and double-checked the measurements. When he was done, he turned to Karen. "Ma'am, these bollards are legally installed on private property. You struck them while cutting across his lawn, which constitutes trespassing and property damage. I'll need to cite you for reckless driving and damage to private property." Karen looked like she might actually explode. "This is outrageous. I'm the HOA president. Those will be gone by Monday." She jabbed a trembling finger at me. "You haven't heard the last of this." That Monday, the HOA called an emergency meeting, and for the first time in Willowbrook Estates history, it was standing room only. And just like that, neighbors who had stayed silent for months suddenly found their voices. Karen called the emergency HOA meeting to order, but her usual commanding presence had all but vanished. Her prized white Mercedes was still in the shop, and she had been forced to arrive in her husband's practical beige Honda, a downgrade that did not go unnoticed. "The first item on the agenda," she began, jaw clenched, "is the illegal installation of hazardous obstructions at 47 Maple Street. I move that Mr. Johnson be required to remove these eyesores immediately." She barely finished her sentence when Margaret Thompson from Oak Street stood up. "I object," she said firmly. Those bollards are on private property and completely legal. What I would like to discuss is why our HOA president believes she's entitled to destroy other people's property. A ripple of murmurs moved through the room. Then James Chun from Elm Street raised his hand. "I'd like to add," he said, "that Karen has been trespassing on my property too, cutting through my backyard to get to the community pool. I've asked her to stop several times." What followed was an avalanche. One by one, neighbors stood and shared their own stories. Harassment over minor infractions, unauthorized inspections, retaliatory citations, delayed approvals. Karen's face drained of color with each new accusation. It turned out that while Karen had spent months enforcing rules on everyone else, she had quietly been breaking half of them herself. Eventually, Robert Williams, the HOA vice president, stood and called for order. "I move that we vote on whether Karen Mitchell should remain as HOA president," he said formally. "Given the multiple complaints and her admitted damage to private property, I believe it's time for new leadership." The vote wasn't close. 28 voted for her removal. 2 voted against, Karen and her ever-loyal friend, Susan. When the results were read aloud, Karen's composure cracked like glass. "You'll all regret this," she screamed, rising to her feet. "I'll sue every last one of you. This neighborhood will fall apart without me." Security had to escort her out when she refused to leave, shouting obscenities that, ironically, violated the same HOA conduct code she had once wielded like a weapon. But the fallout didn't end there. 3 days later, I received a call from my insurance company. They had approved my claim for the lawn damage and would be pursuing Karen's auto insurance for reimbursement. Her premiums, they informed me, were likely to triple. Then came word that the city had reviewed the police report and was filing formal charges for reckless driving. The fine? $500 and 6 points on her license. But the final blow hit harder. Apparently, Karen's employer, a well-known law firm where she worked as an office manager, got wind of the whole incident, threatening to sue an entire neighborhood, and being escorted out of community meeting by security didn't exactly fit with their professional image. She was placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. I saw her one last time at the courthouse. She was contesting the reckless driving charge, her lawyer claiming that the bollards pose a hazard. But the judge wasn't buying it. After reviewing the evidence, including videos of her repeatedly tearing across my lawn, he not only upheld the citation, but doubled the fine. "I find this to be a case of willful and repeated reckless behavior," he said sternly. "The defendant is hereby ordered to pay $1,000 and all associated court costs within 30 days. The judge banged his gavel. Karen's face collapsed in on itself as the verdict landed. All the power, all the bravado, all the righteous fury, it vanished. I didn't say a word. Justice, as it turned out, looked a lot like a quiet morning, a cup of coffee and 6 steel bollards.